Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Proops.
This is Jordan Harbinger.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This is
East.
Sebastian Younger.
This is Rick Marotta.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
Hey, this is Skunk Baxter.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
And now, the Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero and Pete A. Turner.
Hey, this is Pete A. Turner from Lions Rock Productions, and we have got a fantastic album fight for you tonight. This one's in honor of Peter Tork, who we lost about a week before we recorded this, so we thought we'd get the Monkees in the ring because, first off, if you don't know, the Monkees are a powerhouse with a huge writing team and the Wrecking Crew doing a lot of the playing early on. And this is their second album, More of the Monkees, and I think it's almost kind of funny that maybe the corporate elders were like, hey, this actually worked. Let's just not get too serious about it. We'll just call it More of the Monkees and go from there and shoot. They just kept recording albums. So let's have Phil do our ring introduction. Phil?
Today's album fight is a 12-round matchup between an alternative powerhouse and a band made for TV. In the red corner, we have the distinctive voice and tones of REM with their fourth studio album from 1986, Life's Rich Pageant. And their opponent in the blue corner, we have the frivolity and energy of the Monkees with their second studio album from 1967, More of the Monkees. Let's get ready to ramble. Take it away, judges.
Perfect, as always. I love Phil's introductions. I guess we'll just go ahead and go right into Richard's analysis. Richard, what do you got for us?
This week's matchup is the classical Critical Darling versus the popular album. 14 categories were used for this week's fight, and 5 popularity categories went to the Monkees, where 5 critical categories went to REM. 3 critical categories were ties, and the deciding category was a popularity category, and it went to REM. That gives us a 6-5 advantage for REM's Life's Rich Pageant. That alone tells us it could be a close fight, but there were 3 tied categories, so in theory this could be a decisive win for either album, or holy shit, another tie? If it were me, I don't see this as close. This is REM, in my opinion, at their absolute best. If you went to college in the mid-'80s to mid-'90s, this is what college sounded like. But this isn't about my personal preference. What are the judges going to think? Predictions based on numbers alone, REM in a very tight win. Probably a split decision, unless, of course, we get another tie. Are we going to get another tie? Who knows? Back to you guys.
Our judges tonight, we have my 5 doors down neighbor for lifetime growing up, Corey Farley. Corey, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me again.
And then we have my other lifetime friend, Mike Lipari, also from Benicia, on the show. Mike, judging from work today, thank you so much for taking the time.
No problem.
So he's getting paid for this, right?
Yes.
No, hell no, I'm not getting paid
Sam
for this.
Walton is cutting a check, yes, billing overtime. And then, of course, our computer genius, Todd Nemet, is on here, and this was his suggestion was to get the Monkees in the ring, and I thought, well, they should fight REM. So thanks for joining me, Todd.
Hello. Thanks for having me. It's always fun.
Fellas, let's do some pre-fight talk here. We'll keep it quick because this is a 12-round fight. Corey, before we got into this, what were your thoughts going in?
Well, growing up, in the 80s, basically, early 80s, I watched the Monkees on TV constantly in reruns, just watched them the entire time. So I have a, special place in my heart for their music. Then REM, kind of one of the first alternative bands really to, come around, college sort of alternative bands that came out. I was actually at first thinking, just my nostalgia for the Monkees might push them over, but we'll see what happens.
Mike, pre-fight thoughts.
Well, I, like Corey, grew up watching the Monkees reruns constantly on TV. It was the Monkees, the Brady Bunch, and Batman. It seemed to be on every day. So I really like the Monkees. It reminds me of my childhood, but again, I'm aping Corey here. I learned about REM pretty mid 80s, and think I have their entire catalog. I might be short one or two albums. This is one of my favorites. So this, I knew going into this was going to be really tough.
Yeah. And then Todd, pre-fight thoughts, and I know you probably have some kind of commentary on this. One or two of these songs kind of deal with acid rain back when that was an actual cause. But what were your thoughts pre-fight?
Yeah, this is great. Well, first of all, rest in peace, Peter Tork. He was, I guess he held the bass on the Monkees show. He didn't really play the bass. He played guitar in the recordings. Anyway, yeah, I watched the Monkees reruns. It was in syndication when I was like, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, and I loved it. I thought Mickey Dolenz was like the coolest guy ever. He was like shaking his hair and singing and playing the drums. I sort of assumed when I grew up I would marry three men and then move into a house, with them. But I guess that's not how it worked out. Anyway, REM also formative for me, like in my late teens, I guess, and very, very late teens and early 20s. I remember having my first apartment in Fort Wayne, hearing Can't Get There From Here on the radio, and I ran right out and bought it at the record store, and I loved REM. This fourth album, Life's Rich Pageant, this is sort of where I start to lose the thread with REM. Like those first three albums are like, Godhead for me, just kind of murky and jangly and gothic and everything. And then this is where they sort of move into that kind of arena rock stage where I just sort of lose the thread. But it has like good elements of both, I think. And the one thing I should say, the More of the Monkees album, that was the number one album when I was born 52 years ago this week.
Yeah, and I guess rest in peace, Luke Perry, who passed away, 52 years old today as well.
And Keith Flint, too.
Yeah. Tragedy. All three guys dying within about 10 days of each other. Well, I guess we should just go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and do round one, She versus Begin the Begin. And let's go ahead and have Corey start us off.
All right, so starting off with She by the Monkees. Growing up, listening or watching the show on reruns, I thought I knew the songs, like I had said. But on this album, and I guess a number of other albums, they never played them on the show. So actually, She was the song She, that was the first time I heard it. I mean, it sounded kind of like a formulaic song. It sort of reminded me of a early 60s song, had a little, 50s-ness to it, but I really liked it. It's like, I'm going to go get that song and put it in my playlist. Begin the Begin, good drums, good guitar. I really like the song, but I gave it 10-9. I gave 10 to She. That was a surprise for me.
Yeah, that is a surprise. Mike, how did you have round one?
Every round is a close round. I'm going to say that up front so that I don't have to say it often, but I'll say it often anyways. This is everything you expect from a good REM song versus everything you expect from the corporate-controlled era of the Monkees. I'll start with the Monkees. She's a slickly produced song, and Mickey Dolenz drops an impressive vocal performance. But one of the things about this song, I was familiar with this song before I had already heard it. I've always felt that the backing vocals get a bit much, and you can even hear them being a little off-key from time to time. When I did the research here, I found out that there are 7 backing vocalists. 7. So that's why it gets a little bit overpowering at times. Despite all the production work, when you take this kickoff track versus kickoff track, Begin the Begin just cooks for me at all levels. We've got the great Peter Buck guitar, the Millsbury rhythm section keeping the song driving along almost at a march, and Michael Stipe is really showing his vocal chops from the get-go. I gave this one to REM 10-9.
Nice. Todd?
Yeah, I agree. This one was a close one. So She that's just classic garage rock kind of stuff. On Sirius XM, my favorite is Little Steven's Garage, Underground Garage. And this is like kind of right in that zone, and I love it. It's just that 60s kind of thing. Mickey Dolenz's vocals are fantastic. I think he's one of the great underrated vocalists, probably because he's not a vocalist. But he sounds really good. It's very distinctive, and it sounds really good. Boyce and Hart wrote this. They were being muscled out around this time. In fact, kind of that whole corporate machine around the Monkees were getting muscled out right after this. But they wrote a lot of the strongest songs. I think they even toured with the Monkees a little bit later. It's a fantastic song, kind of right in that zone. Begin to Begin is REM. They're coming right out. They're saying, like, here's the feedback. Here's a rock sound. Like, we're coming out. This is like, here's our new sound. Like, you'll be able to understand the vocals. Like, Michael Stipe's not going to mumble. And so, you kind of hear the, like, kind of that defining sound that you'll hear later with Orange Crush and that kind of stuff. Plus, the lyrics are relatively strong here. It says silence means security. Silence means approval. That's REM sort of at their best, kind of obliquely talking about stuff. I think they're less effective when they kind of come right out and say what they mean. And they're really good at those kind of understated, murky kind of vocals. This was very close again, but I gave it to the Monkees 10-9.
Wow, the Monkees come out swinging. It's a bit of a surprise. All right. Well, let's keep going. Round 2, When Love Comes Knocking at Your Door versus These Days. Mike?
We have the Stipe-Mills vocal combination that just makes so many REM songs so good. Add to that the strong drumming from Bill Berry that really points out why REM really wasn't quite the same band when they left. It just drives the song along. You have a really great 1-2 punch with the first 2 songs, Begin to Begin plus These Days. Buck, of course, turns in that consistently good performance. And I'm going to call out here at track 2, Peter Buck is really quite underrated. I know a lot of people are fans, but he really doesn't get put into a lot of best of lists. He really is a fantastic guitarist. Here we go up against the first appearance from Davy Jones. And it's a middling Davy Jones track. Again, great production values on a decent song, with Davy backing himself. But when you look in the liner notes, there's not another Monkee to be found on this song. It's really Davy and the Wrecking Crew, and that's it. So this was an easier one for me. I give this one to REM 10-9.
Nice. 10-9. Todd?
Yes, I agree with this. Davy Jones is just a little bit too eager to put on tap dancing shoes and pick up a hat and a cane and kind of go, we're putting on a show. And so it's just a little bit cloying to me, maybe combined with the bowl haircut. But so it's hard to like it, even though, it's the top of kind of the production value for that time, for late 70s. Neil Sedaka wrote it. There's fantastic session musicians on it, but Davy Jones just kind of ruins it. These Days is great. Again, good lyrics. I will rearrange your scales. I love that. I don't even know why I love it, but I do. And I have a note too, just like Mike, the singing with Mike Mills is fantastic. Just that harmony, just as a band, they're great. I also agree Peter Buck is a seriously underrated guitarist. His big thing is kind of arpeggios, kind of the jangly arpeggios in the Rickenbacker. And it's amazing what he can do with that and how he can phrase it and kind of invert the chords and get arpeggios. He's just really, really good at what he does. And it's a very understated style that really works well with this band. This was easy to give to REM 10-9.
Yeah, it's a little bit funny to think that we're going to talk about Peter Buck as a guitarist going against, to include Glenn Campbell. Playing the guitar. Say that, yeah. But we're going to talk about Peter Buck a lot, I think, and that's how much he stands out. So underrated, but maybe not underappreciated. I think those of us that know really know. Corey, how did you have the round?
Okay, so When Love Comes Knocking at Your Door, to me, it's Davy Jones, number one. I'm not a huge fan of Davy Jones singing. It's kind of a bubblegum pop song, but the song, it really shows the limits of Davy Jones' voice. So then we go to These Days, which for me was kind of a classic REM sound that they have, the driving drums. I thought the guitars, funky guitar, vocals. I gave it to These Days 10-9.
All right. We're moving right along. Round 3, Mary Mary, wow, versus Fall on Me. This is a hard round. Let's have Todd start it off.
Okay, so Mike Nesmith wrote this song, and Mickey sings it. This is again kind of in that underground garage zone that I like so much. The Wrecking Crew's on this. This is one where Glenn Campbell is playing, and I really, really like this song. I think this is the best song on that album. Also, as an extra bonus, Run DMC redid this and released it in 87 or 88, I forget, and with Mary Mary Why You Buggin', and that's been on my playlist too. In fact, I added it to the playlist for the podcast. I don't know if anybody noticed that, but I've been playing this song while driving around, and I really like that. Fall on Me, that was kind of one of their first big hits. I don't remember exactly what their hit order is, but this is kind of one of the big hits that came out of REM, and so I thought, because I didn't really care for this song, all that much. It's a little bit strident, it's a little bit droopy. It doesn't have that REM, at least the elements of REM that I enjoy. So I gave this to Mary Mary, 10-9. Okay,
Corey, how did you do it?
Okay, Mary Mary is it's a great song. It's one of the quintessential Monkees songs. Mickey Dolenz, great job on it. Fall on Me is, though, one of my favorite REM songs. It's a great 80s song. The voice contortions he goes through are great. The song actually, somehow, when I listen to it again, it reminds me of, it has some elements of Love Like Blood from Killing Joke for me, which was one of my favorite songs. I don't know why, but I hear that in there. It's really more of a, it's not an alt-rock, alternative rock song for me. It's really more of a modern rock song, which was different than their other stuff for me. So I gave it to Fall on Me, 10-9.
Wow, that's an interesting note with
Killing Joke.
Yeah, that's an interesting note with the Killing Joke reference. I hadn't gotten that out of it, but now that you say it, I can understand why you say it.
The way his voice, his voice goes, reminded me of Love Like Blood.
I like it. We'll have to listen to that. Michael?
I'm going to have to listen to that too. I'll start with the Monkees. A little of my thunder was taken here because I also was going to point out the only Monkees song covered by Run DMC. This really is one of the Monkees' best songs. It features 3 of the 4 Monkees, with not all of them performing, but Michael wrote, Mickey singing, and Peter's on guitar. So we have a bit more of a complete picture of the Monkees. Run DMC damn near stole the song from them, but not quite. I still like both versions equally. Sometimes I'm in the mood for a Run DMC, sometimes I'm in the mood for Monkees. It's a truly enjoyable song and not as overproduced as some of the other early work from the Monkees can be. Unfortunately, this is an example of a great song facing an even greater song. Fall on Me is arguably the best vocal performance from Stipe, Mills, and Barry. The 3 of them combined could be an a cappella song easily and still be amazing. There's a version of this from REM Unplugged that actually gives me chills. It really is one of the best vocal performances ever. I give this one to REM 10-9. It is just an unbeatable song.
Wow. All right. Well, let's keep moving along here. Round 4, Hold On Girl versus Cuyahoga. More environmentalist type rock here from REM. Corey, start us out.
Sure, Hold On Girl. Again, another Davy Jones song. Not one of my favorites. The song actually, the production values I thought were actually all right. There was a break that they do with a keyboard that was great, but there was just something missing in the song for me. It was like they would get to a point where they needed to kick it up a notch and they'd be like, nah, and they'd bring it back down, and it just didn't really work for me that much. Cuyahoga didn't really work for me though either. It's an environmental song. I read. I didn't really follow the lyrics on that. It was a good bass line. The chorus was good, but really for me, both of the songs were. As I would have scored them, I actually would have scored them both 9s. But this is a 10-point must system, so in that case, I gave them both 10s. But if I could go lower, I would.
So a couple of 9s turned 10 for Corey. Mike, did you find the same thing?
No, I did pick a winner.
Okay.
Harpsichords everywhere you look. And of course, there's Davy Jones mispronouncing girl, as he always does. Hold on, girl. This one isn't overproduced. It's kind of cute. That's all you can expect out of a Davy Jones song. It's not better than the last Monkees track, but then few are. Cuyahoga is not better than Fall on Me either. It's a song about a river catching on fire and gets a little bit preachy McPreacher steam from REM. not a bad song, but a bit of a misfire. It's never been one of my favorites on the album. They kind of went in the same direction as Corey, and that neither one of them really did a whole lot for me. But I think the harpsichords just put it over the top, and I gave this one to the Monkees in a close 10-9.
And not the only time we hear the harpsichord on this album for the Monkees. So interesting note, Michael. I'm glad you caught that. Todd, any thoughts on this? And I also want to say Cuyahoga as a lyric, pretty fun. Anyhow, Todd, what's your call?
Yeah, I was going to say that. Cuyahoga and hyena are like two words designed for Michael Stipe to sing with that kind of weird, yodely kind of thing he does. So I think they just go through the dictionary looking for words like that. Cuyahoga, I liked it. It's a cool song. I think this is a song that would fit on Fable's Reconstruction. Maybe if you maybe turn the reverb up from 2 to 4, then it might fit on there. So I like it a little bit better that way. I agree that the lyrics get a little bit less obscure, and then they kind of it diminishes them a little bit. So I do like "This is where we walked, this is where we swam." That sounds like a lyric that would be on Fables, maybe. "Hold On, Girl." This is Davy Jones again, and he wants to entertain us just so desperately. It has the fake harpsichord, which is the only musical note that I made. There's a harpsichord going on. Now it ends with something called the Picardy Third, which is one of the few things I remember from my music theory classes in college. That's where something's in a minor key, and then all of a sudden the last chord is that in major. So I'm trying to think the song by Chicago, "Wishing You Were Here." That's the same way it ends with a Picardy Third. So I was excited that I was able to recognize that, but it wasn't enough to just save it. So Cuyahoga wins 10-9.
What year did you take music theory?
Oh God, 85 through 88, I guess.
Oh, that's great.
I'm good. I'm good at figured bass. I'm really good at like 6, 4, 3, 5. Like I can do that. Give me a bass line and some figured notes, and I can do all the theory. I have no talent, ideas, any of the other stuff, but like the kind of mathy part, I'm real good at.
We always learn things on these things. Let's learn something about round 5. And this is the round that features Peter Tork's, song per album. So we've got Your Auntie Griselda versus Hyena, and this will be interesting. Mike?
This is a hard round. Hyena is a song that I've always really liked. It's a great rocker from REM. They can really put together a rocker when they set their minds to it. Think about What's the Frequency, Can It? End of the World as We Know It. There's quite a few out there that just cook. And this is one of those. Of course, once again, strong backing vocal from Mike Mills. This goes up against the late, great Peter Tork's only lead vocal contribution to the album, as Pete said, his one per album. I've personally always loved the sheer novelty of this song. It's just really fun. It hasn't aged badly. It always made me wonder why Mickey and Davey dominated the lead vocals and Michael and Peter would get 1 or 2 songs if they're lucky. Maybe I'm just feeling nostalgic in light of Peter Tork's passing, but I'm giving the slight edge to the Monkees here at 10-9. Real close, but maybe I'm just a big softie.
Todd, is Mike a big softie? Let us know what you think.
Yeah, no, I'm feeling like maybe I'm a bit too hard-hearted. So Auntie Griselda, I will say it grew on me the more I listened to it. But Peter Tork is not a great vocalist, or at least he's not trying on this one. For this album, they recorded like 30-something songs. Wow. They would just run and record these things. And they picked, like, this collection could not have been the best ones that they recorded. And this is an example of that. I guess Peter is like the, Ringo of the Monkees. He gets one song that he gets to sing. The other thing, that vocal solo is so dumb. It kind of reminds me, Happy Boy by the Beat Farmers.
Yeah, I'm Happy Boy. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that has like the gargling solo. that would be an improvement on this solo where he's like going blah, blah, and stuff. I think we could get the gargling in there to be a little bit better. So, this is like one cut up above album filler. I hate to say, sorry, Peter. Hyena, again, this is a good word for Michael Stipe to sing because it has the long vowels in it. This sounds a little bit retro to me. I agree. The production is appropriate for this album. I feel like the song, the topic, kind of the obscurity of it, it would fit on an earlier album. Maybe that's why I like it. And I have a note here. Mike Mills, totally underrated as a bassist. Just his melodic bass lines are great, and his harmonies are unbelievable. The way he and Michael sing together is great. So I give it Hyena 10-9.
Hyena. All right. Corey, how did you have it?
All right, so with the Monkees, your Aunt Griselda, it's just a fun song. But yeah, Peter Tork, not a great singer in any stretch. Kind of reading some about it, I was like, God, this song sounds familiar. What song is it? And then I look up, it's because they copied 19th Nervous Breakdown.
Uh-huh.
Oh.
And
wow, that makes sense. I hear that now. I hear it.
Right? And just like you were talking, Todd, about the album, how they came up with all of these, and what I had read was it said that this was just rushed out to capitalize on the success of the band, and that the members didn't even know it was coming out.
Wow.
Yeah.
They'd say, the thing I read said they learned about it when they were on tour.
That's crazy.
Yeah, they had to go buy a copy themselves. They had to go to the record store and buy it.
God. And Mike Nesmith called it probably the worst album in the history of the world. I think he was probably just a little pissed.
Yeah. He was always the pissed monkey. What was your score for this one?
Sure. Well, then on Hyena, it was an up-tempo song. It didn't really grab me, so for that I gave your Auntie Griselda, I gave it 10-9.
Wow, this is totally a surprise. All right, well,
wow.
let's get to the halfway point here. Let's go round 6. I'm Not Your Stepping Stone versus whatever Under the Bunker is. And I'm going to have Todd start us off.
All right. So let's start with Under the Bunker. My notes say this is shitty Tom Waits. And Peter Buck is no Mark Ribot. At least it's short, which is good, and Michael Stipe took out his megaphone to do his Tom Waits thing. Yeah, this is kind of album filler, and it's interesting. This is the end of side 1, right? And so there, I think it's like, well, let's deflate a little bit of pretension, and let's have a little nod to the indie thing. Maybe there's a little bit of insecurity, maybe about starting to sell out. Anyway, not a great track. Not Your Stepping Stone. This is great. Again, Boyce and Hart wrote this, which most of their great songs either they or Neil Diamond wrote. Mickey's sings it great. I'm surprised how short it was. I remember the song being longer, but it's like, I don't know, maybe 2.5, 3 minutes. And Mickey is such a good singer, and I love. I forget which chorus it is, but he just kind of goes. He has an N, and he just kind of draws out the N at a tone, and then he goes, "Not Your Stepping Stone," and it's really great how he does that for several measures. Just makes like a weird N sound. So I gave it to the Monkees 10-8.
Oh wow, a knockdown! All right, Corey, how did you have it?
So with "I'm Not Your Stepping Stone," it was just it's a great song. I think what they said I read it was first recorded by Paul Revere and the Raiders, but got famous when the Monkees did it. It's just a wonderful song. Underneath the Bunker, that was the first one for me. I kind of liked it. It's basically just a transition song to me.
This episode of the Break It Down Show is brought to you by Lions Rock Productions.
That's us.
We publish, evaluate, and develop podcasts just like this one, consult others to build their own, and create associated content and content marketing strategies.
So if you're launching or expanding your social media presence, your business or your personal brand, or if you just want to take your media presence to the next level,
reach out to us on Twitter
at Pete A. Turner
or at JohnLG69
at the Break It Down Show.
There's 1,000 ways to get a hold of us.
Now enjoy the show.
I kind of liked it. It's basically just a transition song to me. It just sounds like you're almost going to commercial.
Yeah.
And I actually really liked it, but the vocals were so low and odd that you couldn't even really hear it, that if it would have had normal vocals, it likely would have been a 10-9, but because of the weird vocals, I gave I'm Not Your Stepping Stone 10-8.
So, another knockdown. All right. Michael, we've got 2 knockdowns. I personally scored this as a double knockdown. How do you have it?
I am dropping this short instrumental on it. I don't even include the mumble whatever lyrics as lyrics. Not particularly memorable, definitely not an upper tier instrumental, which for me instrumentals have to be pretty damn good to win a round. They have to be like classic. This is not that at all. Meanwhile, we have an all-time classic from the Monkees. I know it kind of is a cover, but they really owned it. I remember several bands, including just like local bands I would go and see in the 80s in the Bay Area, covering this song because it's just so freaking cool. I always thought it was the other Monkees backing Mickey, but the liner notes say it's Tommy Boyce and Bobby Hart, the guys that wrote it. Learn something new every day.
Yeah.
But this is still so much of a better song. REM takes a knee here. Monkees 10-8.
All right. So a straight knockdown round. Everybody agrees. We're halfway through this fight. Let's just take a moment and through 6 rounds, the Monkees have won 4 of them, and because of Corey's tie, REM's won 3. It's a little bit weird, but are we shocked to see the Monkees dominating this fight at this point, or ahead even?
Yeah, I'm amazed that the Monkees are doing this well. If you consider that not even the Monkees cared for this album, it's pretty good. There's something, and I wasn't quite sure how to put this in my notes, but there's something like deeply cynical about the Monkees and deeply postmodern. They were put together, by corporations. They had songs written. Don Kirshner is the guy who put them together, musically. And then they just sort of willed themselves into existence, like as an actual band and actually writing songs and touring and gaining creative control. It's just such a weird story, and it's just so inverted. And so it's totally surprising that they would do well.
I don't know how Kirshner translates directly in German, but I know the word Kirsch is cherry. And this is sweet music a lot of times, the Davy Jones stuff especially. Corey, any thoughts? 4 rounds to 3 thus far with Monkees ahead of REM. Does that surprise you?
I guess it doesn't necessarily surprise me, just because for me personally, my personal bias, I thought would be actually more towards the Monkees.
Uh-huh.
I was like, when I first was doing it, because REM's a great band, but a lot of their stuff is a little out there for me. But the Monkees, I was like, geez, every Monkee song I ever heard on the show, I loved. Well, but all of these albums, all these other songs, I've never actually heard before. But they're still good. They still kind of make you feel good.
Yeah.
I smile when I hear even the bad ones. So they do have that going for them, for me. But REM just, they're a great band. It's just one of the all-time great bands. And so we'll just see how it ends.
Mike, you have all the records, except for maybe one of REM. Does it hurt your heart to see the Candy Cane Kids for thus far taking it to REM?
Well, you said 4-3, which is not exactly an overwhelming victory. And I thought it was going to be close all along, so it doesn't surprise me too much. We'll see how things go on the second half, which is usually where most bands fall down, because in the middle of the side B is usually where all the filler goes. So we'll see how things go as we proceed.
Speaking of filler, let's get into the Burford round. Round 7. Look out, here comes Tomorrow versus the Flowers of Guatemala. More strangeness from REM. Let's have Corey start us off.
Look out, here comes Tomorrow. It was written by Neil Diamond.
Yay.
And you can kind of hear that, except that's the problem with it for me, is that's who I wanted to hear singing it, not Davy Jones. And then that was versus the Flowers of Guatemala. It was a good song. It was mellow. This was actually a really close one for me. Both songs were really close, but it hurts me in a way, but I did give it to Davy Jones. And look out, here comes Tomorrow. 10-9.
Michael?
My notes here are sort of stream of consciousness. I'm going to read them instead of translating them. Hello, Neil Diamond, writing and guitar. He'll be back later with something amazing. Davy on lead, Mickey, Peter, and Davy on backing vocals. It's a very good song, but the whispered I love you is a bit annoying after a few listens. Flowers of Guatemala is another ballad, but definitely a good one. Album is chock full of great Stipe Mills performances. It's a great comeback after a less than impressive instrumental. This is another very close round, very close indeed. In fact, I'm largely undecided as I type this, so I'm going to go take a break. ... Okay, time to break the tie. Davy's whispers are just the nit I need to pick. REM wins 10-9.
All right, Davy costing the band a round. Todd?
Yeah, I think I agree with this one. So this is another song that mentions Mary. I'm not sure who this Mary person is.
Yeah.
But I thought that was interesting. I was not a fan of the whispered I love yous either. Davy Jones just has really no range. And even when he's singing, the lyric is, "Oh, how I wish tomorrow would never come." He basically wants to be dead, and he sounds really cheerful while he's singing it. There's no range whatsoever. It's like, gosh, I wish a piano would fall on my head, and he's dancing around. It sounds like a Herman Hermit song, sort of, which kind of reminded me. I was thinking actually the second song sounded like a Them song, but this sounded like a Herman Hermit song. Flowers of Guatemala, which I wasn't crazy about either. I think this song kind of shows why REM had to go forward with their sound. They had to go with a more rock and roll sound and a kind of crisper produced sound. This is sort of a parody of REM, these kind of jangly arpeggios, and the sort of formless yodeling going on. It's kind of low energy, and it feels like sort of a dead end. Like this is the end of their style, and now you're going to hear kind of a new REM tone going forward. One review I read said this is like a Velvet Underground song, which I guess I can kind of hear, but unless they meant that they were all on heroin when they recorded it. But I just wasn't crazy about it, but I'm still going to give it to REM 10-9.
10-9, all right. Well, let's move into round 8. The Kind of Girl I Could Love versus I Believe. Let's have Mike start us up.
Here we have Michael Nesmith's only lead vocal, and he was pretty pissed about this. This is where I pulled that same quote that Corey had earlier, probably the worst album in the history of the world. But Pete, you're right. Michael Nesmith, I think, was just the pissed off monkey in general. This also happens to be the only song on the entire album that all 4 monkeys sing on, and Nesmith plays steel guitar on top of that. I almost gave the round to the Monkees simply because it's the only track that they're all performing on. But I had to listen to I Believe to give it a fair shake. I Believe is definitely a good song, and I've always liked it. It's kind of a standard REM song, but not in a bad way. It's another good performance, another really good performance with everyone on the band doing their thing. This was a really, really close round. I could have gone either way. Maybe the nostalgia and losing Peter Tork pushed me towards the Monkees on this one. Hard to say, but I gave this one to the Monkees, close round 10-9.
Wow. Wow. That's a surprise. Todd?
That's interesting. So I Believe, somehow I forgot about this song, and it was so good when it popped up. I said, oh yeah, I remember this. It's so interesting. The lyrics are interesting. It kind of has this Catholic title of like, I believe, the credo. And it's about in the point in the album where it would be in the Mass too. But then it has all these kind of Protestant lyrics about your calling and snakes and spirits and stuff. So it's kind of a confused song, but it always struck me as kind of a religious sort of a song for whatever reason. And again, I think it's REM. This is great REM, like upbeat. Everything's working. The bass line is really melodic and moves everything along. It's a really, really good song. I can't believe I forgot about it. Like you said, it's a standard sort of REM song. The Kind of Girl I Could Love is also very interesting. There's sort of a Buddy Holly thing going on with the rhythm guitar and sort of the tom-tom drums. And hearing Michael Nesmith sing, it really reminds me of the show for whatever reason. That you can picture them on the show when you hear his singing because his voice is so distinct. There's some interesting stuff. Michael Nesmith wrote this song. In the turnaround in the verse, they hit a minor 4 chord, which is kind of interesting harmonically, and then the 5, and then back to the 1. That was a cool thing. And then the chorus is kind of an interesting minor key that was up a little bit. So it was interesting. Some of the stuff he's doing, you can see him growing as a songwriter as this is going. I still gave it to REM though, 10-9.
Corey?
Yeah, the Monkees, The Kind of Girl I Could Love. I hadn't heard it before. It had a funky drum beat. I actually really liked Michael Nesmith's singing. It worked for me. I Believe it's just a good REM alt rock song. It started a little weird. It's a great song, and this round was really close for me, but I gave it to REM, I Believe, 10-9.
Oh, all right. Let's go ahead and go into round 9, The Day We Fall in Love, featuring Davy Jones's wonderful singing, but also former guest on the show, Don Randy's playing on the piano. And they're going to go against REM's What If We Give It Away? So we'll have Todd start us off. All
right. So The Day We Fall in Love, I'm just going to read my notes on this, just like Mike did. Oh, God, kill me. What is this? Help me. I want Davy Jones to take me to prom. That will show Becky, that bitch. Now the song's ending. Please don't leave me, Davy. I'm all alone. Everything around me is shame. That's all I feel. So that's my notes on The Day We Fall in Love. What If We Give It Away is good. That's a standard sort of REM issue song. You know, you can hear the producer here. He's the same guy who did those John Mellencamp albums, or the early ones, and you can hear that in the introduction of the song. It almost sounds like REM doing John Mellencamp sort of thing in the beginning. So I was looking for a cigarette during most of this song, so I didn't catch all of it, but I wound up giving it to REM 10-9.
And then in this prom scenario you're talking about, was the theme like powdered wigs from the Enlightenment era and the harpsichord that Don Randy's playing, or was the harpsichord not a part of your breakdown?
No, the theme of the prom was bowl cuts, and you would bring in a Tupperware bowl, and they would cut around your hair.
That's fantastic.
And then you'd get a pair of tap shoes, and then you just tap all night until you fell over.
Corey, grab your tap shoes. Get started.
Yeah, okay, we got the Monkees, The Day We Fall in Love. So Davy Jones is the singer in there, I guess, but he doesn't really sing. He talks badly. It was just horrible. You had it was a train wreck. It literally is a train wreck. I listened to it at least 3 times. Going, why am I redoing this? Why am I listening to this again? This is horrid.
I was getting too turned on. I could only listen to it twice.
And then we go, What If We Gave It Away? It's the REM, the harmonies in there was kind of classic REM for me. I love the harmonies that they do on that. So for me, it was REM easily 10-9.
Taking notes, Todd is turned on by double-breasted chef shirts and bowl cuts. Got it.
And the tambourine dance, too.
The tambourine. Mike, how turned on are you?
Not.
No.
Not at all. I'll start with the REM song. What If We Give It Away has all the qualities I like in an REM song, a mid-tempo REM song. Great vocal harmonies, classic bucking, jangly guitar, the nice jangly guitar from the earlier albums, not the hard rocking that they started to do in this album. Solid backing from the rhythm section, overall a memorable tune. And it goes up against what sounds like a bad acid trip had by somebody directly after watching 10 straight hours of British fairy tales. I don't know what the hell they were thinking when they put this on an album. It was just, it doesn't belong on any album, ever.
Ever?
I agree.
Ever. I wasn't able to dig up a whole lot on this song. I was looking for interviews where one or all of the Monkees said, we're really embarrassed that actually made it to print. I'm guessing they were. I was damn close to scoring this a 10-7. I ended up leaning at 10-8 to REM, but I'm still thinking maybe to give it a double knockdown. This just, as much as I love the Monkees, this is just not, I don't know what this is. I don't know.
Well, this is like a cynical play at the teenage fans, right? Like Davy Jones was the cute one or whatever, the lovable one. And yeah, the heartthrob and Teen Beat or whatever. So I feel like this is very, very cynical, kind of marketed at teenagers to go, sell those kind of magazines or furnish that image.
Yeah, it was to make teenage girls melt, but I think it really missed the mark. Just bad.
I don't know.
Speaking as a teenage girl.
We don't know any teenage girls from back then. They could have been incredibly guileless.
Let's move into round 10. Sometime in the Morning versus Just a Touch. And then maybe getting back to the formula that works. Carole King writing songs, Mickey Dolenz singing it, and a little bit of a help from Jerry Goffin on the writing. And let's see what Corey thinks about this little number.
Okay, the Monkees, Sometime in the Morning. I thought it was a good song. Mickey Dolenz singing. I think he kind of shows the limits of his voice in the song, but overall I thought it was good. The Just a Touch by REM, it's a fast tempo song. For me, it honestly just didn't work well enough. The Sometime in the Morning worked better for me, so I gave Sometime in the Morning 10-9.
All right, fair enough. Michael?
So this is Mickey and Carole King, who not only wrote the song, but also sang backup. It brings out a little something different in the Monkees. Was a little worried about starting to feel some ear fatigue, especially after that last song from the Monkees. And even a bit from REM. These are both long albums. This is definitely better than the last two songs from the Monkees for sure. Is it better than Just a Touch? Just a Touch is another up-tempo rocker for REM. Neither of these songs is really a huge standout on the albums it comes from, not a catalog-defining track. I was real close to a tie here. I had to, again, pick nits. So my nitpicking here was actually not a nitpick, but just the appearance of Carole King, for me, pushed the Monkees over the edge, and I gave it to them 10-9.
I like it. Yeah. Who knows who else played on this? They don't know where they recorded it or who recorded it. I don't know if you guys noticed that in the credits, but they're like location unknown. They're like the Intercontinental TV champion from the WWE.
Yeah, the liner notes were really tight. Nothing there on some of these for the liner notes.
So let's get Todd's round 10 analysis. Todd?
Sometime in the morning. This is Goffin and King, as people pointed out. Mickey singing. Is sort of singing a ballad, so that's different for him. I think he strains a little bit. Did you the first couple chords reminded me of Boys Don't Cry? If you hear it, I mean it breaks out different, but I thought, oh, that's kind of interesting. Sort of the here, there, and everywhere chord progression. I thought it was kind of interesting. This is like a perfect radio sound, a perfect convertible late '60s driving down the coast, California radio sound song. Or maybe a movie montage where the protagonist and the manic pixie girl are falling in love. It's great kind of for what it is. It's a little bit heavy sheen on it, but it's great for what it is. Just a touch. At this point, we're dragging a little bit in the albums. I love the energy that comes off of this song. I love the guitar stabs in the chorus, a little bit kind of like Gang of Four kind of guitar playing in there. I don't like Michael Stipe singing on this. It's a little bit too over the top, like he's a little bit out of control. But I gave it to REM 10-9.
All right. Boy, this penultimate round is going to be tough. REM's really delivering some songs here. They've got round 11, Swan Swan H versus the Monkees Laugh, and I'm curious to see what Michael thinks.
Swan, Swan, Hummingbird, Hoorah. We're all free now. I don't know what that means, but I really do like it. I think that might be one of the first lyrics I quoted on my notes, actually. This is another strong performance, and REM is really ramping up as they're getting towards the end of their album. Again, we have great harmonies. The fact that this album is dominated by great Stipe Mills performances is not lost on me. Laugh is another average Davy Jones performance, and didn't do anything for me at all. This one I almost scored a knockdown, but I went easy on the Monkees and gave it to REM 10-9.
REM 10-9. Todd?
Okay. Laugh was not as bad as I thought it was going to be, and then it started to grow on me afterwards. The background singing, ho, ha, 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 that's a little bit on the nose, a little bit cloying. I thought this was Davy Jones' strongest vocal performance, and I started to like it. There were some in the lyrics about not having shoes, and there was also in Not Your Stepping Stone, there's a thing about when I met you didn't have any shoes. Was there some kind of shoe shortage in the late 60s that I wasn't aware of?
Mary just didn't have much money, that's all.
Yeah, it was Mary.
Yeah, Mary was bugging and having shoes.
She wore like bread bags on her shoes. Now, Swan Swan H, interesting song. So this is the other direction REM goes in later in their career. It sounds like something that would be on automatic for the people. And this is sort of the REM that I fell in love with, or fell out of love with. I don't like the slowness. I don't like the strident lyrics. Apparently, it's something about slaves, former slaves after the war. It's very self-serious. It's very ponderous. This is where, this is the direction I just absolutely could not follow with them. And anytime I hear Michael Stipe being really self-serious, it always makes me think of when Adam Yauch jumped up on the stage at MTV dressed as Nathaniel Hornblower and knocked him out of the way and said, I had all the ideas for Star Wars. This is a farce. And so that's what I always think of is like the Beastie Boys, like making fun of him. And also, do you remember the Butthole Surfers?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they moved to Atlanta to stalk and harass the members of REM. I don't know if you remember that.
No,
but anyway, I thought that was
Really?
yeah, I thought that was really funny. I mean, they made up a lot of stories about what they did, but they moved. They claim they moved there just so that they could bother them. So this is kind of the self-serious REM I don't like. Even other bands weren't having it. So I gave it to the Monkees 10-9.
10-9. All right, Corey, how did you have it?
Well, another Davy Jones song. Not my favorite. It's a good song, actually, though. It's a bubblegum pop song. It is one of probably the better Davy Jones songs, even though I did have him winning one of the other ones. Swan Swan H. It's a mellow song. It's kind of a dirge, you know, the way that the song progresses for me. But it worked for me. It's the first time I had heard it, but I really liked it. So for me, Swan Swan H, 10-9.
Wow. All right. Well, this is a close fight going into the final round here. Let's see what happens here in round 12. The fighters will come out and they'll touch gloves. And Todd, you're going to tell us what happens between I'm a Believer, holy shit, and Superman. What a round.
Oh, this is really, really tough. And I actually went back and forth and changed the score a couple times. So I have to double check that I got it. Okay. So I'm a Believer is great. And that organ beginning little riff plays and it's just great from that point forward. Neil Diamond wrote it, of course. Smash Mouth covered it, and so that's saved the song for a couple more generations. The guy who played the organ, Stan Free on the Monkees song, that's the same guy who had the hit with Popcorn. I don't know if you remember that from the 70s.
No.
But anyway, don't Google that song. Don't get it stuck in your head for the next 3 weeks, and you'll thank me. But anyway, I'm a Believer is great. Superman is fantastic too. This is another kind of album closer, and it's like, look, we're an indie band. Here's an obscure cover. I feel like it's sort of apology or sort of thrown on. I've always loved REM's covers, like King of the Road from Dev Letter Office, Pale Blue Eyes. They do a Number 9 Dream that's fantastic. Like, they've always done fantastic covers, and then their covers kind of point the way to their influences too, and kind of help you understand their music better. This was really, really close. But because I like REM covers so much, I gave it to Superman 10-9, just barely.
Wow, just a great analysis, by the way. That's just fantastic. I love it when it's hard in the last round like this. That's great. Corey, how did you survive this round?
Well, I'm a Believer. It's written by Neil Diamond, Mickey Dolenz singing on that. It's just if you had to pick a song that defined the Monkees, for me, it would be I'm a Believer. It is probably their best song. If it's arguably their best song for me. Superman is a good song. I like that song. Actually, reading something into it, like Mike, he likes to, say they got to pick the nits. I mean, one of the things in there I had read about it was that, Mike Mills is the lead singer because Michael Stipe didn't like the song enough to sing lead, is what I read. How true that is, I don't know, but I thought that was interesting.
Jesus.
So it's really hard to put any song for me up against I'm a Believer. I'm a Believer wins 10-9.
10-9 for I'm a Believer, splitting it up. Michael, how did you have the last round?
So I'm going to start with a test for everybody else in the judging booth. And then I saw her face.
I'm a Believer.
Right. Everybody knows that damn song.
Yeah.
Everybody knows it. When I was doing my notes, I was just kind of humming it to myself, and my wife sang the refrain.
Yeah.
So I'm a Believer is just, it is probably the Monkees' most well-known song. Smash Mouth famously covered it, but it's the Monkees' song. They own it. I haven't been looking forward to this round since I first saw the scorecard. That's because two of my favorite songs from these two bands are going up against each other. When I think about Superman, first of all, I never knew it was a cover. All these years, 30 years, I didn't know it was a cover until I did this research. Because they own this song. The Click doesn't own the song. REM stole it from them. I always thought it was kind of a throwaway song, but it might be the best throwaway song in the history of throwaway songs. It is such a great way to end an album. And then it goes up against an American icon in I'm a Believer, written by Neil Diamond, and a song that everybody knows. I went back and forth. I almost scored this one a tie. It was a tie up until the very last second that I finished my notes and my scorecard. I ended up giving it to the Monkees simply because Superman is a cover. That was the nit that I had to pick to get away from a tie. damn close to 10-10, but I gave it to the Monkees 10-9, grudgingly so.
Wow, Michael, you definitely, when I talk about making people cut the baby, and you being an REM guy, you cutting the baby in half. I love it. I love it. This is great. So that concludes the fight. I'm going to have Richard come in and do his post-fight real quick, and then we'll get back to it. Richard?
Wow. Holy shit. Here we go again. Wow. Yet another split decision tie. So first of all, big credit to those who have suggested these specific fights, because we're getting lots of parity in the last several matches, and that just means good, hard-won fights. And looking at the numbers, while we get ties, we do have a 114 to 113 point advantage on the official cards, and if you lump in the unofficial cards, we also get 114 to 113. The patent pending numbers said so much, even giving REM a slight edge, but screaming there could have been another potential tie. And here we go, we had one. Not much more to say here, just good matchmaking by the people in the home office. The big question is, what album will stop the trend of the tie and dominate their opponent and finally get us an actual win? Who knows? Maybe it's next week. Maybe it's not for another month. Who knows? It's exciting. Let's see. Back to you guys.
So here's what happened. We've got a draw.
Oh, Jesus, no.
Corey.
No.
Corey has it 115-113 for Davy Jones and the Monkees, because that's how much he loves them.
I love Davy Jones, true.
And then Todd has it 115-112, very similar score, going for REM. And then Michael's last bathroom visit of the judging caused him to not have it be a tie in the last round, which we appreciate, and that ultimately makes his card a draw, 113-113. So Michael cuts the baby and then puts the baby back together, and we get a draw. Wow, that's a crazy fight. Your thoughts on that, Corey?
Like in retrospect, how does a band made for TV even stack up to a band like REM? I don't have an explanation for it, but I picked the Monkees. It has to be nostalgia. I can't think of another reason. But it's actually, the music was good. Yeah. The Monkees had a lot of production value, the writers and the bands behind them, there is a reason why they did so well.
Yeah. Yeah, they had a lot of talent playing on those songs. Carol Kay was throwing down bass lines on that album. So even if it is kind of prefab, Glenn Campbell is still playing the guitar, and Don Randy, is playing the keys. So there is something to be said there. Todd, what are your thoughts going in, or at the end?
It's interesting. It's two sort of formative bands. One from like early childhood, and then one from kind of early 20s, and like you said, one of them is completely prefab. So Jan Wenner vowed to keep them out of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Right?
Yeah.
So that has to mean something. Like, think of the level of counterculture you'd have to achieve to get Jan Wenner to say, "I'm never going to allow you in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame." Right? That's so they are, like I said before, just at a weird, cynical, whatever level. You couldn't even make this up. When they showed the royalties that the Monkees made on some of these albums, they were in the millions of dollars. So you can just imagine what the people around them were making, Don Kirshner and all those guys.
Oh yeah.
So it's a cynical, crass kind of thing, but then it winds up being part of your childhood and part of nostalgia, and you love it. So there's something deeply demented. It's a level of like postmodernism that like Devo could only hope to achieve at some point. And then you got REM. And they're one of my favorite all-time bands. Those first three albums and parts of this album are, some of the music that I sort of came of age with. I went back and watched their first appearance on TV on the David Letterman show, and Mike Mills and Peter Buck are just bantering with David Letterman, and it's so great. And they sing South Central Rain, and it doesn't even have a name yet. They just played it before the song even had a name. Wow. And they were so good, and they're such a great band. And about as authentic as in indie as you could get. You think of IRS, Rickards, you think of these guys. So it's interesting to put them up against each other. And I'm not surprised that I went for REM over the Monkees, but I was surprised at how much I still love the Monkee songs as well.
Yeah, they're great. They're great songs. I mean, you cannot go wrong with, I mean, Goffin and King, Neil Diamond writing songs, and, the best possible session players in LA playing it. You're going to have some quality come out of that. Mike, go ahead, Todd.
Oh, sorry about that. I was just going to say, what would be the equivalent of the Monkees today? Would it be like 4 SoundCloud rappers living together in sort of an old dirty apartment or something like that? I mean, I'd watch that.
Right. And then you got Marty Sugar out there going, "You need face tattoos, kids."
Exactly. You need face tattoos. Then they bring in Mark Ronson to produce them, and so I could see that.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I'd be up for it.
And we'd probably all love it. And maybe, and this is not a knock on Post Malone, but, maybe it is guys like that where there's a lot of, you've got your full sleeve tattoo kit and face tattoo, and off you go. Hard to figure it out. Michael, how do you feel about bringing this thing in as a tie? You are such a big REM fan. I'm steeped in REM too, so I'm as shocked as you are. But what do you think?
When I came through and scored a tie, I was really thinking of going back and redoing some of my rounds. But the thing is that's how it came out, and because I'm a big REM fan, I was just assuming that REM was going to kill the Monkees until I listened to that album. And as much as Michael Nesmith hates it, it's not a bad album. It's got some really good songs on it. And I stand by my scores, even though I hate the fact that it came out because they are that close. So even though we have another draw, what is this, 4 in a row now? I couldn't possibly change my scores.
See, like if the Monkees were actually just a band and not the TV show, would I feel the same? I actually don't know. I mean, I would assume the TV show, the nostalgia that pulls me in is really a big factor for me. It's an unconscious bias that you have a hard time turning off for me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a part of my childhood, and so I love the songs. You're right. And Peter Tork passing away, I think also made it a little bit more nostalgic. Maybe at another time I wouldn't have given a victory to my Auntie Griselda, but
true.
Yeah, I watched that old clip of Michael Nesmith and Frank Zappa on the Monkees show, and they're dressed up as each other and they're interviewing each other as each other, and they're just goofing around and just having fun. And it's so wild to think that was on the air in like 1967, 68. It's so subversive. It is so crazy. But yeah, we were watching it as little kids. We were imbibing it. Like our cement is still dry or still wet, and they're sticking their fingerprints all in it, so it dries around it.
It's a crazy fight. And so just to go to the CompuBox judges to check the sanity, you guys are not that far off. I mean, the three of us that have scored it thus far, we have it favoring a majority decision to the Monkees. But there is another draw in there because Phil has it as 114-114. So I think, the decision holds, and it's just one of those things where, in mine, I had a 10-7 round for Under the Bunker, and I still had it with REM taking it, but just barely. So there's a lot of room for some rounds to move around, and then when that happens, crazy things happen. So, fellas, all I can do is say thank you. Michael, can you do the disclaimer for us?
Of course. Love doing the disclaimer. These two albums are in this ring because we love music. We love these albums. So despite the fact that we may be a little critical from time to time, song to song, that is how album fights work. We have to find a nit to pick a winner. But these are here for one reason and one reason only. They're great albums. We love them. Go out, give them a listen, give them a spin, give them a purchase, whatever. Please enjoy these albums.
Yeah, and as always, it's fun. I mean, I've known Corey and Mike for decades, and it's great. And heck, I've known Todd's wife for decades, and we all get along so well. And I just love being able to share this time with you guys. And I know it's a labor of love for everybody involved. So I appreciate you guys taking your time to help me create this. And somewhere out there, Michael Nesmith might get a little joy out of what we've done with this album that he hated so much. Maybe we'll get a smirk out of him or something. But I really appreciate you guys, and it means a lot to me to do this with you all.
Well, thank you. I feel the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too.
Me too.